We're here in the Mountain Heritage Center of Western Carolina University's Hunter Library, and on display here are photographs by George Masa. Now, Masa's photos have been used in countless brochures, books, and publications over the last 100 years, and his photos were instrumental in having the Great Smoky Mountains designated as a national park.
But because his life was spent behind the camera, looking through the lens, instead of into it, his name soon became a footnote in the history of Western North Carolina.
And he might have been forgotten altogether if it wasn't for the tireless work of WCU alumni Bill and Alice Hart.
Their dedicated research led to many others being intrigued by Masa. Now, several books and documentary films focus on this Japanese photographer who focused on the Great Smoky Mountains.
It also led to the Harts amassing an extensive collection, which they've graciously donated to Western Carolina University's Special Collections.
George Masa was a Japanese-American photographer who came to Western North Carolina in the late 19-teens. He was not, previous to his arrival here, much of a photographer. He really honed his craft here in Western North Carolina. He worked at the Grove Park Inn for some time in Asheville and made friends with a number of prominent folks in Asheville and Western North Carolina at that time. Developed his photography studio, his business. He did a lot of commercial photography, and he also did a lot of wilderness photography of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park and the surrounding area. His photography was used pretty heavily to promote the idea of a national park being formed in Western North Carolina, which did eventually become a Great Smoky Mountains National Park. He died in 1933. Until recently, we just didn't know that much about his life. Bill and Alice Hart are native Western North Carolinians. Bill is a retired attorney who took a great interest in George Masa. Bill wrote the first real biography of George Masa, which appeared in May We All Remember Well. It was a book that was a series of articles about Western North Carolina. That was the biography of George Masa. So that was from the 1990s. So he's been collecting Masa materials. He and Alice have been collecting Masa materials for a long time. And Bill's, it's like a treasure hunt for him, I think. He just, they find them and they collected them and documented them for decades.
I think people who are interested in George Masa have come to love him. He's such an intriguing man, and his story is so interesting that you get attached to him, wouldn't you say?
In love with him. Deep attachment we got, and still have.
Alice in 1966 gave me Michael Fromm's Strangers in High Places, and he's mentioned in that 2 or 3 times. And in other material on the Smokies, I would find just a reference to George Masa. But by that time, he was a footnote. The library had a lot of information, but those people who wrote about the Smokies, or wrote about Cap Hart, knew him as a photographer, but it was almost a passing reference.
As Bill did the research, of course, getting to know George Masa, and as we did, we became very emotional about him because he was such an iconic figure, and he gave so much of himself. You know, he never thought of himself. He thought of others. He wanted to see the Smokies. He wanted to do all of the trail, designations. He just wanted to throw himself totally into building the Smokies in the way he did, and his photography, because as seeing his camera, his tripod, and he was a small man, and he carried that endlessly. And I love the stories of him waiting until the light was right and finding just the perfect place to make his pictures, and it shows.
And there's a dimension to him that I'm not sure has ever fully been tapped. But if there was a question, he went to the Smokies and put feet on the ground in camera and took the pictures to answer the questions. The other things that touched us was his friendship with Horace Cap Hart. both of them had similar lives, and they became friends. And I know when we were researching the article and writing about Kephardt's death and Masa's reaction to that we both
We cried. We cried. And the more that we learned, the more I think that we became emotional. And when I said we loved him, we did, and we will always, because of what we knew about him. And such a model for all of us. It's one thing to say, I want to do something, but when you devote yourself so entirely to something you believe in, I don't even know how to explain it.
He was a working photographer, and once we got to know him, we began to collecting any magazine article or any postcard, ephemera, anything that was work of his.
As I started studying photos of George Masa, I became obsessed with the way he did his photography, how he would set it up. There would be a branch. Something would focus us on the clouds, the mountains, all of that. And Bill can tell you, I don't know how many times he has had to stop in the Smokies and the Parkway because I'm driving along and I see the view and it's George Masa. So I'm obsessed with him for his photography. And I will tell you, and Bill will not like that I'm putting, because he's very humble, but Bill approached learning about Masa with the intensity that in many ways Masa had, because Bill just didn't give up. He would spend many, many nights in the library researching, finding things. It was just like this constant passion of his to find everything he could. And, it was overwhelming for me to see, and so proud of him. And I participated. I only found one thing all by myself, and I was so proud.
Tell them what it was.
Well, I have a piano that I had a long time, but in going through the piano bench with a lot of different pieces of music, I found this beautiful piece but on the front of it was a Masa photo, and on inside was another one, too. And I just flew into the library with Bill. Look what I found! And that's the only thing I found all by myself. So I'm very proud. And it is at Western, in the archives over there.
And our donation to Western Carolina University of that material has something like 300 or more items of ephemera, and that tells the story of that aspect of his work as a photographer.
I've been doing this a while, and I've never had a collection come in that already has a finding aid written. It was detailed too. It was Bill's. May have been an attorney, but in his heart he's an archivist. When we processed this, box 1 was binder 1, box 2, binder 2. We kept them exactly as Bill and Alice had them. So this box 5, this is from binder 5, and the folders they correspond exactly to the sleeves, the page sleeves that the Harts had. So this is the way it came in. Practically every item has one of these memorandum to file, is what he called them. Bill would write down all of whatever he knew about each of these pieces. It all came in very well organized. It's very accessible, and it's a good overview of documentation of Masa's work product, his output. I think it's very possible that without the Hart's interest, he might just be the Japanese photographer friend of Horace Kephardt's. It seems like every answered question we have about him creates 3 new ones. He makes a really good research topic. His whole story seems awfully unlikely. The Hart collection really helps tell it. The committee that was selecting the photographs, we all had our opinions, but one of the things we did was farmed it out to a class and said, here's what we've got. Pick one and tell us why you picked it. Defend your choice. Why does this photo matter, and it should be on the wall?
George Masa is an incredibly important figure in the history of the region and in the creation of the Great Smoky Mountains National Park, and for a wide variety of other reasons. And we're lucky to have his photographs here, and it's great to be able to tell his story. It's great for these photographs to exist so close to where they were originally taken. It's an outstanding exhibit and outstanding collection.
Western Carolina University, with its already collection of Masa, made this an ideal place.
We're thrilled, and this is just a dream to us. We had no idea when we came here this was what we were going to see to this extent.
I have something else to add.
Oh, you do? Okay.
Alice has been a vital partner throughout the effort, and we have done this together.
And I think it's also concerned with legacy, and the legacies are tremendous, you know, and I think Bill's going to leave a wonderful legacy.
My widow.
No, I'm going to be with you, Bill. We're going to both do it together. Everything else we've done 65 years. We went everywhere to find Masa, and over these years we found Masa in our hearts.
On behalf of Western Carolina University, we'd like to offer a heartfelt thanks to Bill and Alice Hart for their contribution of this wonderful collection. We'd also like to thank Jason Brady and Paul Bonesteel for helping us with our project. And on behalf of everyone who finds an interest in the many facets of George Masa's work, we offer our heartfelt thanks to Bill and Alice Hart for finding George Masa in the first place, and now we too can find him in our hearts.